Okay, so I just made a video and I used a lot of profanity. So I have a feeling that that video, if I posted it, it would get taken down. And this must be a Hutterite community nearby. Or maybe those are Amish. I didn't really get a good look. All I saw was horse and buggy. But anyways, pretty sure the way I was talking it would get taken down. So, for example, I was talking about, the office environment and the politics of a career, whether you're working in the healthcare field, education, business and corporation, whether you're working in the offices of social services, housing, banking, it doesn't matter, There's going to be an element to your career where you'll be asked to make sacrifices and compromises. And in my last video I was talking about teachers in public education, even at the school level, at the public school level, pardon me. You're there to teach kids and you want to do your job, and you got some ideas that you want to try out. You got to pass it through to the principal, but maybe the principal wants to do something else, isn't listening to you, is paying a particular attention to one other person especially, and you know why. And it has to do with sexual harassment in the workplace. And I'm talking about men and women. And transgender. The politics in the workplace have always been there. And when I started out in the last video talking about this, I was referring to ethnic relations in Canada, because that's what these videos are showing, the different parts of Canada and the communities in Canada that are associated with different ethnic communities. Germans, Russians, Ukrainians, Polish. There's not too many specific Czechoslovakian communities, although we do have those smaller sub-communities in Winnipeg that I'm aware of. We have, those are Eastern European communities, and we've talked about that in these videos, where the British have given themselves the best land, the best farmland, the best jumpstart in business, corporations, finance, development. If you were British, you were going to get ahead. It's even evident in the fact that Ukrainians and Eastern Europeans anglicized their names to blend in, to appear to be British. That was the only way that they were going to get ahead. Now, under the guise of white race, the white race, after a while, Ukrainians, like, someone who has the last name with Chuck in it, Boy Chuck, whatever Chuck you got. But if you anglicize that name into like Bob Chuck, it starts to look British. It starts to look English. Now The people who were in power in 1870 and 1920 had the power to give you money or not, to lend you money so that you can invest in your farm or not. So if you stayed with your Ukrainian name, the banker would take one look at your name and deny you the loan because they were prejudiced, discriminatory based on ethnic relations, not on white racism, because Eastern Europeans weren't even considered to be white. Kind of telling the story backwards, but in 1870 and 1920, when Canada was really getting started, the people who really wanted to build this country were the ones who won it in a war, the War of 1812, when the British defeated the French. See the remnants of an old British farm? I don't know, maybe it's Ukrainian, I don't know. But even if it was Ukrainian, what I'm saying, if you're anglicizing your name, you're also imitating the British, and you're getting rid of your Ukrainian ethnic tradition and cultural background, and you're anglicizing everything. So even your farm is going to look British. You're going to start speaking English. You're going to start hiding everything about your Ukrainian ethnicity. But there's no Ukrainians out here in Eastern Canada, so I guess I'm more talking about Scottish and Irish and French people. Maybe Italians, maybe Greeks, maybe Polish. Did I say Polish? But everybody was changing their names to make themselves, they were assimilating into the English way here in Canada. But then they kind of called it the white way, the white race, the white traditional lifestyle, which really wasn't Ukrainian or German or Greek or Italian. The white traditional lifestyle, it wasn't Portuguese, it was British. It wasn't Scottish, it wasn't Irish, it wasn't Gaelic, it was British. But if you had blonde hair and white skin, you could pass. But the people who had power, and the power to make your life better, they were the British people. They controlled the banking system. They controlled everything. They controlled law, justice, health, education, housing. They're the ones who dispersed the land. They're the ones who took the land, stole the land. They gave it away. And if you anglicized your name, you're more likely to get land than if you didn't anglicize your name. And what I was trying to say was, ethnic relations are playing a role today. We're still feeling the effects of those ethnic relations established by the British elite because they won that war. And the French are still pissed off about that. They don't want to be second best, but they are. When it comes to, well, they lost the war. That's what I'm talking about. So rather than using all the F words that I was using, I want to try and see if I can tell this story without the F word. So I'm going to upload 2 versions of this story. We'll see which one gets taken down. I don't mean to offend anybody, but you know, I'm from the north end of Winnipeg. I grew up in a tough neighborhood. I grew up in a hostile environment. And I became the person that I became. If you don't like it, well then change the way Canada runs things. That's how you fix a person like me. A person like me now has a personality disorder. But I got help. I went to therapy for 13 years. I got some pretty good help with the same therapist for 13 years. I had previous therapists before that, but back in those days, therapy wasn't an ongoing resource that you could access. So I could only access therapy intermittently between 1997 and 2008. So I was aware that something was wrong, but in 2008, the Canadian government offered therapy as a resource in which I accessed for 13 years. I've never had anything so stable in my life. Anyways, you know where we're really experiencing that ethnic relations, that hostile ethnic relations that we like to pretend doesn't exist. We ignore it. We slough it off as something else. But it's ethnic relations. It's British superiority over the French, and it's French superiority over everybody else. And if you're Greek or Italian, you know where you fit in on this vertical mosaic, if there is such a thing as a vertical mosaic, even as we know that there is. But I'm just saying, for your benefit, if you want to go and look into it, go look into it. But in the public education system, if you're a teacher and you're getting ignored, and you're not advancing, you're not getting noticed, but other people are, it's most likely due to sexual harassment, power dynamics that are rooted in ethnic relations. So for example, principals are usually male, they're usually heterosexual, and they're usually pretty ignorant when it comes to ethnic and race relations. They usually think they're above reproach, when in fact they're unaware of how much abuse they dole out to people around them. They act quite priestly, but they are discriminatory and they are prejudiced. So I'm also describing the boss at the bank, the boss. Because if you're East Indian and a boss at a bank, you know where you stand in terms of who's the boss at the bank. Because it's not going to be you. And I'm not being racist when I say that. It's most likely going to be some white guy, to use the racist terminology. It's probably going to be someone with a British name. Someone where power has always been in the family since Canada started. So that's the boss. If you're Middle Eastern and you're a doctor, you're not the boss. Trust me, we already know that. It's probably going to be someone who's British or someone who's French. But if you're French, you're not the boss either. The boss is most likely going to be someone who's British. That's where power is. That's the power dynamics of Canada. It doesn't matter if you're working in education, if you're working in health, you're not going to be the boss. Most likely the boss, you'll never meet the boss. They're so high up there, you'll never meet them. But it's also political. The real boss of Manitoba Hydro probably isn't the president and CEO of Manitoba Hydro. So there's a bigger game going on. The president and CEO of Manitoba Hydro is probably an appointment. And it's all done within the law so that it doesn't look like it's an appointment, but it could be. I mean, all they have to do is appoint their own board of directors. That's the way the system is set up. And so your career can only go so far, and it won't go any further unless you make those sacrifices and compromises and get noticed within the white race. So if you're Portuguese, if you're Italian, if you're Greek, if you're Afghanistan or Pakistan or Hindu, Sikh, and this goes for all genders, all personalities. You're going to be making sacrifices and compromises to get ahead. You're going to try and get noticed. You're going to do favors. You're going to play the game. You know, that's the way it works even among us common folk in the workplace. You gotta put on a fake personality, or you gotta be real. You know, if you're honest, the chances of you moving up is diminished, because you probably aren't going to be incorporated into the business value system, because you're probably not willing to make those sacrifices and those compromises. And I'm talking about sexual harassment and discrimination and prejudice, racism. Even if you work in a garage, you know the political system in there. So you can get a piece of the pie, but the pie is only so big. So if you want to make it up to the top, you cannot be you, because they don't want you. They want you to do what they damn well tell you to do. And if that means sexual harassment, sexual assault in the workplace, as long as you don't say anything, you'll move up. But then you gotta go home to your family and have dinner with a smile on your face. I've seen it. I made it to the top. I worked for a top university college under the vice president. I was not willing to make those kinds of sacrifices. I I was just one person in a massively corrupt and toxic environment. And in that kind of environment, you need to disassemble the entire thing and then rebuild it. But it doesn't guarantee anything. So that's how I was describing ethnic relations in Canada. And that's what we're seeing right here in this beautiful land of Canada, where immigrants came from Europe, from Africa, Middle East, Asia. You knew damn well when you were coming here, and you were taking land that didn't belong to you. I don't think Ukrainians knew that in 1870. I think the government told them, you could come here. We made some treaties. The Indians are okay. They're not going to start a war. We have our CMP now. Everything's going to be okay. You can come and farm. But you're going to get the shittiest land because we would prefer to give... We really don't want Ukrainians here. We want British people. We want people who are already going to fit in. And Ukrainians and Polish people... I don't even think Czechoslovakia even existed yet, to be honest with you. A lot of European countries today didn't even exist in 1870. They were a part of the Russian Empire. I think they called them Bolsheviks. I'm not too up on the Eastern European history. I know things. But I wasn't too concerned about your history. I was concerned about Canadian history. And you're probably not too concerned about Canadian history because you benefit from it in such a way that I'm describing. I wouldn't want to be you because of the way that you have to live. In order to keep your job, you got to be an asshole. In order to do your job, you got to be an asshole. Oh, I'm going into swear words again. So that's why I do trucking, because this is the only job my boss wants me to do. And will stay out of my way so that I can do it. I can't help the Manitoba Human Rights Commission. I can't help universities and colleges because those places are so corrupt and toxic from political power systems and dynamics and ethnic relations and racism and colonialism. It's so corrupted and toxic that I dare say those people aren't even human. They're inhuman. They're destroying humanity. They're making inhumane decisions about our environment, about our education, our healthcare system, about the homeless people. They're inhumane. And one of the most inhumane institutions that we have is the justice system and the policing system that protects it. So that's my nice way of talking about it. The other one has a bunch of swear words. It's a little more profane. I don't know if it'll last. I'm fairly unknown right now, so but go ahead, enjoy it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to these videos, by the way. And go back and watch all of them. I don't always talk in all of them. Sometimes I just show you the landscape. Alright. Don't be mean to each other out there. Treat each other nicely. Be fair, or try to be. I hear even Donald Trump can be quite charming when he wants to be. Don't be villainous. Be nice, especially in traffic.